So here's the Snow Performance Stage 1 kit. Comes with a 3-quart reservoir. Here's the pump, which is actually quite heavy. It's got some nice little standoffs there. I got the red kit, but I ended up actually ordering black hose too because they were all out of stock in this kit, and the hose was like $6. So this is the red nylon hose that it does come with. Low level sender, and basically a bunch of fittings. Glue, more fittings, relay. And it comes with a little self-built map sensor. I am not going to run that though. I'm going to tie this into the Hondata to control it. And then I opted for a little weld-in bung too that I bought. I'm just going to weld into my piping. So with that being said, you can see I've got like this 45 coupler here. So I'm going to end up having to take that coupler off. I've got a 45, and I'm basically just going to weld that into it and run a coupler there. That way I can meet the requirements. It says for this bung to be approximately 6 inches or less from the throttle body. It can be further, it can be just as long as it's past the intercooler in the actual cold pipe, but I'm going to try to get this at least 6 inches or less and go from there. So first thing, I'm basically going to install all of these fittings into everything. Whoop, so your bag's already open. I'm going to install all these fittings into stuff, and it says to put this E6000 glue on it. It just says like the cure time is about basically 15 minutes, but for full cure for an hour. So I'm just going to kind of thread those in everything, and we're going to resume from there. All right, so here's the low level sensor that it comes with. It's pretty simplistic. It tells you to put the arrow, you might be able to see this, there's an arrow right here pointing down. So the level will look like this. So where we're gonna put it in the tank in a second, when it's there, when the water's filled up, or the meth, water mix, whatever you got, it'll push this lever up, meaning you're cool to go. When the water level drops, this essentially will send to an LED that it comes with, basically lighting up saying you have a low level. I'm either gonna use the LED or I'm gonna tie it into the aim dash and just kind of have something come up on there letting me know I have a low tank. So the instructions tell you to basically mount it a third of the way up is the most common. I might just go, I guess, yeah, probably right about there. If you look, there's some marks here on it, some dashes, or you got like a little crease here. I think I'm just gonna kind of mark it right about there. All right, so now I've got my deburring tool that I kind of just use on metal and stuff. Just kind of clean the edge off. Shake as much as you can out. Now this part, I'm going to feed this from the inside. You've got the arrow down. So now you've got these pieces. Came with a little plastic washer, this little rubber piece, and the nut. It says you don't have to, but it is recommended as well, or optional I should say. Take some of this E6000 goop. And I'm just going to kind of again, one last check. Just kind of make sure that your arrow is pointing down. All right, just put a little goop all around it there. Just gonna kind of leave it there hand tight. I'm pretty sure all that goop is gonna kind of help seal it in. We'll do a leak test before we do it, but that's kind of, for now, gonna be the finished tank. All right, so here's the pipe going there now. I've got a 3 to 2.5 inch coupler I'm gonna put on there, and I've got a 45 pipe that looks like it will fit. I'm gonna have to just trim it. So I have to put that in there because I bought the weld bung. I'm gonna weld into this pipe here that I'm gonna actually have the nozzle injecting from. All right, so the pipe is done being welded. Here we go. So now it's gonna look something like that. All right, so there's the actual little aluminum bung, and there it is inside of the fitting. There's no hose attached to it yet, but the idea is, you know, there's the pipe going. Something kind of going on down like this, with the nozzle pointing this way, and it can kind of wrap. Hose maybe come right over the catch can and kind of just go straight back into that hole down there, or it can go down that way when we clock it. Something along those lines. So I'm gonna kind of just mark it, put it in there, and send it. All right, so you see I got it marked there. I'm just gonna kind of pilot hole it here up. All right, so we're in the trunk. Okay, we're in the trunk. So you can see I've got the hose already routed. It's going through a little vent cap back there that I just don't have the piece for anymore, and it's just gonna make a perfect spot for it just to go through, and it'll be kind of be hidden under there, and it is what it is. So I think what I'm thinking is maybe putting the tank right about here. I'll have to make a little bracket and elevate it up. And then the pump, this is in, this is out. So it'll go from the tank, basically sit from here, come into here, come out into the car like so. I'm just trying to still keep some of the trunk space without getting rid of everything in it. All right, this is just a generic Everlast, just 1-inch bar stock I got from Home Depot. I'm gonna mark it at 13.5 inches. I'm gonna cut this piece off. All right, so the flat stock's cut. We're gonna make the cut at 8 3/4. I don't have a brake, so I'm gonna try to get this to be just kind of as straight as I can get it. So basically line the Sharpie mark up there at the table and gently all right, so here's the bracket we just bent. So I already kind of installed the other one over there. Kind of see what it's going to look like. So for this, I'm just going to lay the other one right on top. Pretty simple. Just going to lay this bracket covering it like that. Grab a Sharpie. Holes are marked. So I'm just going to drill in the center of these with, I'm going to use a number 8 drill bit, because what I'm actually going to do is drill and tap these. You could, I guess at this point, just drill a hole, put a bolt and a nut. You could do a riv nut. There's tons of options you could do. I'm just choosing just to simply drill and tap it. I think it looks a little cleaner, and I don't have to worry about actually having to fumble with a nut ever. Just simple, just remove, install, remove. All right. All right, all the holes are drilled. I kind of went towards the bottom of all the black Sharpies that I drew. And then I've got my M6 by 1 tap. Just gonna use a socket. A T-handle would be nice too. Just make sure you can get this in there as straight as possible. All right, so here it is, mounted with this little feet on it. I kind of marked it. I grabbed some darker wood screws here, like a dark gray. I'm gonna use those to basically hold the feet down now into the actual trunk, because I made that plywood back. So that'll just kind of suck this down right to the plywood back. All right, so here's the reservoir. It's got 2 black leads. I added wire to both of them. Added a D-ring to the end of this one, which is gonna bolt into the trunk area. And this one's just empty at the moment, which is gonna run up into the front of the cabin. Now, same thing kind of with the pump here. Ground wire, loomed it up, added a D-ring to it, that's gonna run into the trunk. And then I added some extra wire to the power that's gonna route to the front of the car. So now I'm gonna mount those 2 in the back, the grounds into the back of the chassis, and then route the positives to the front. All right, so this is pretty much how it's gonna go. The tank's gonna kind of sit up here. Pump's probably gonna sit right in front of it. So if you can see now, the nozzle of the actual like nozzle on the tank itself is higher up than the pump, as it's suggested. And this is all some extra line that I've just got sitting in the back here. I'm just gonna kind of do a rough, I've got so much of it, so let's just do a small little chunk here. Basically just want you to have a nice square end there. Unscrew this end of it. And just push it over. Line will come behind it here. It's a nice fit. And screw it down for a little extra. Let's just double check it. Yep, that'll definitely be enough there. No kinks, no nothing like that. All right, right, so here's the check valve. It's basically supposed to be anywhere after the pump and before the nozzle. So I'm probably just gonna put it kind of just sitting right here. All right, so here they are installed. You can see now ground wire coming from the tank going right down there, down underneath this mat or underneath this wood to bolt to the chassis. Same with one of the sender wires here coming from the low level sender. Wire going up here, attaching to the check valve, which I'm probably gonna just zip tie here or something like that, just to kind of hold it tight. This is gonna be right on the outside here now. I'm not gonna move that or mess with it. And you can see that the bottom of the tank is actually higher than the pump like I recommended. So let's just kind of put some screws in it and it should be good and mounted. All right, so I'm gonna grab a old jumper harness. These are so cheap off eBay nowadays. It's come in handy so many times for just pulling pins and wires on projects, other people's projects, whatever. So I need to pull some pins out here for my input and then my output. So these opening ones are pretty easy. Just kind of put a pin in there, scribe. It's got a little push connector and push up. See how that flaps up? Do to the bottom. You only need to do it to whatever side you're gonna remove a wire from, but I'm just gonna show you. It's pretty easy. And you can grab little small screwdrivers, whatever. I'm gonna grab a bobby pin. I'm gonna try and pull out this third little wire just right here. So I'm gonna kind of just gently pull on it. You're gonna pretty much go in right above the connector and just kind of keep pushing down gently, and you'll feel it run into a tab. And at that point, push and pull up as you're pulling this hand back and pins out. Just do another one right next to it. Once you get one or two, it's pretty easy. So I've got two of these now. They are different size, so look at whatever pin you're going to use. But for me, I got these two, and I'm going to cut them pretty much all the way back here, and then we're going to go in the car with them. So here's your three ECU connectors. For the secondary tables, I'm going to be connecting into my AC switch, which is B5, which is this little connector here I'm going to be using, and it's on the top row. So same thing I showed a minute ago. Basically stick this in and pop it. I really don't want to be tying anything extra into my wire harness that I got, so, or let me say, I don't want to be messing it up at all. So this is where I'm going to be using the wires that I got here now. So looking at the connector this way, B5 is the third connector over. So this top pin is 1, 3, and then 5. So you got to put the connector in the same way you removed it. Kind of clicks in. Snap that down. Now we got this random gray wire coming out. All right, so that'll open up your parameters. I'm going to click secondary tables. I already kind of have it. I'm going to choose my air conditioning switch. I'm just going to leave that alone for now. I'm also going to make nitrous 1 active. And when I go to nitrous 1, we are going to say the function is going to be my water meth kit. Input, I'm going to also make disable. Output, as we said earlier, is going to be a 10 extra output. I'm just going to upload that map. Okay, so here's my B5 switch just temporarily. Got a wire tied into it, and it comes back to the bottom of my switch here, and I've got a ground just kind of going up there. So basically when the switch is off, you know, closed, ground is cut off. If I put it on, ground's going through it. And then if you look at the AC conditioning switch, it says off. Flip the switch, goes to on. You also notice the nitrous 1 arm also goes to on. Flip switch off, on. Awesome. All right, so we're just going to keep that wiring in mind so we can tidy it up. All right, so here's a little coin pocket thing from Greg Parts to replace that. So essentially this is a ground, so it's just going to, when I flip it up, this is going to connect these two terminals here. Which one of these is going to my, I kind of labeled them here. So it says secondary table chassis, and the top one is secondary table ground. So it's just a ground to a ground, which is that essentially when I flip that switch, it's going to connect those two, and it's going to trigger my Hondata to do the secondary tables. All right, so here's the relay kit that it comes with. This is actually just the end that all the wires come out of. So the yellow wire is going to be one that's going to plug into the battery, and it comes with a little fuse to solder in, butt connector, whatever. You're going to put the fuse pretty close to the battery, closer to the battery than to the relay side. So I kind of already took it, I already loomed most of it. What you can't see in the middle is here I added another same gauge wire that is red, just to give me some more length. Because this is going to be mounted up in the front of the car, up by the dash area. I need to get this back to my cargo compartment where my battery is. So kind of just cut the terminal end here, and now I'm going to solder this inline fuse to it, and then a connector on the other end to go over my battery. All right, so I had to move the battery for a minute, but the relay's up there, all my hoses, wires are up here, and they are running through down to the bottom, coming up through here, and then it might be kind of hard to see, but here's what the back cargo looks like. I need to clean it out. It's unorganized right now because it's unhooked everything, but I've got a rubber grommet up here in the side, and that's where the wires get fed through. So it is confusing, right, because there's a lot going on back there. I kind of know what's going on back there because it's my car, but so I kind of just pulled the wire that we're just putting in there right now. So I've got a little label maker. I just wrote Meth kit. It's going to be vertical text. I'm kind of trying to start to do this too, a little more stuff, just so I can, you got so many wires and stuff ran in the car. It's nice enough if you get to diagnose something, just to be able to figure out what it is. It says Meth kit. I'm just going to put this on the wire. Now I've got a little flag that hangs off that just says Meth kit. So if I ever have to look back here and I'm like, man, what is this? I need to unplug it or change the fuse. I just know that that wire now has, that's my Meth kit. All right, so here's the low level LED here. So you can see on the power end of it, it really doesn't matter because it's, you can do it each way, but I'm just going to stick red to power. I had a yellow wire, and then I also teed off of the wire. This is not going to pertain to everybody's kit, but so this is going to run to a 12 volt switched power, and the other one I have is going to feed into my dash. And then this other ground wire is going to tie into the cable that is green for me that I have running all the way from back of the trunk from the actual sending unit. Then, so now for the other LED, the green one that I'm using as the actual spraying LED, I kind of labeled it injection LED here, which this is coming from the relay now. And then I've got it, the white wire ground is going to go to a chassis ground, and the power again is going to the injection wire that comes from the relay, and I have it teed off to another white wire that's going to run into the back of my dash as well. So if you watch my aim dash video, you can see I had all these wires there, and then I added these two bottom ones, now this bottom yellow and white. I try to use other colors, but I just don't have any other colors, so I kind of put them far away on the analog inputs, and I made them fatter. So the yellow wire comes out, and it connects to another yellow wire, and the white connects to another white wire, and those both opposing attach into my LEDs as explained earlier. That way now when the LEDs light up, I don't know if I want them yet, so at the moment I'm just going to kind of hit them here, put the dash in, and you won't ever see them, but they'll feed into the dash and I can have it display on the dash. If for some reason I can't get it to work it right or get how I want it, then I can simply drill into my housing, and I can just pop these two LEDs there. But it would be nice just to kind of have a race setup screen on my aim dash, and I can just know when water meth is triggered, my tank is low, whatever the case is. So now let's kind of put the dash back and see if we can set that up. All right, so I'm in the aim system. I'm opened up my dash. I'm going to go to channel 8. I'm going to just call this low meth fluid. I'm going to change the function to a number. We'll just leave the sensor's headlights for the moment. And 20 hertz, we'll just leave it alone. So there it is. Now we're going to go up to sensors, make a new one. We'll call it meth level. Hit OK. Measure type. It's going to be a number. Put one past it, number. And then I want to say 12 volts. When it gets this 12 volt signal, that's when it's physically, full of fluid. So we'll just say 5 millivolts, we'll leave it, and we'll say number 1. When it's got 0 millivolts, it's going to be a 10, or it's going to be a 0. So basically when it's reading that it's got fluid in it, it's going to be a 0 output. When it's got voltage, we're going to say 5 volts in this case, it's going to change to a number 1. Sensor's created and saved. We're going to close that out. Go back to here, our low meth fluid sensor. We'll change this just down to 10 hertz. And I'll change headlights to meth level. Save. Alright. So now we're going to go to my display. Now if you see, I've got multiple screens started. This is the main screen that I kind of cruise and drive around on. This one's going to be what I'm calling my my race screen, for lack of better words. So I don't need anything else really on it. I just want my coolant temp, intake temp, and I don't know what I'm going to make that yet. I'm just kind of exploring. So I kind of already started messing around here. I'm going to put a value right here on the icon line. We're going to add a new icon. We're going to call it low meth fluid. And it's going to be when the low meth fluid, we're going to choose that, is greater than 0. So when it's getting voltage, so when it reads 1, it's going to pop this icon up. Now I've got all these icons that are pretty cool to choose from. I guess we're going to go with this guy. That looks pretty good. And you get to choose its color. Let's just make it green. I think that'll stand out on the dash pretty well. And you can, I mean, there's all the colors you can choose. We'll start with green and I guess let's go with blue. Or I could go with just red. Just to alert me that, you know, something's wrong. Okay. Save. Okay, it shows that other weird little icon. Let's... Alright, I don't know what that is, but there it is. Alright, so it's transferring the dash. Now I also made the exact same thing. Same steps, I just made one for the meth injection. And it shows this little weird turbo icon and made it blue. Alright, dash successfully transferred. Alright, so looking at the relay here, we've got the green wire that comes out of it. In case you're curious, like, oh, where does it go? I've got this nice little label on it that reads meth relay pump. So the green wire goes to the pump. It's the power wire for the pump. The yellow wire you need to feed with the fuse attachment to it to the battery positive. Then you've got the red line that comes out of the same input as the green, which goes to your meth LED that lights up showing that you're injecting meth at the same time. The other red all by itself goes to a 12-volt switch, which I have rigged to the fuse box we'll get to. And then in my case, this black wire is a ground that goes to my ECU input. Well, it goes to my ECU output, I should say. This is the input and the ECU output. All right, so everything that's coming from the relay over here, we've got, here's the 12-volt injection LED. It comes straight up as shown earlier and goes into the LED. And then here's the 12-volt switched meth relay. It's tied into a power wire, which is also fused into the same power wire that goes to my 12-volt switched low-level sensor LED. All right, don't judge me too hard, but it's organized chaos, for lack of better words. I'm not gonna show anybody all the wiring, but here's what it kind of looks like. Everything's zip tied up. Some stuff's loom, some stuff's not, which is why I label things. Just because there's so much wiring going on that I've added to the car. It still needs to be tidied up a little bit here, but I need to kind of clean those up, zip tie those up. That area is kind of done now. But yeah, so you can kind of see the ECU mount there. It kind of just holds everything. I just need to kind of tidy those up. For the most part, they'll end up just sitting back there. All right, so we're going to tab over to our race screen. Now when the meth shoots, it should light up a little blue indicator there. Car is not driving, obviously, but we're going to be able to go to test outputs. And I'm just going to do the AC clutch output. Are you ready?
Ready.
Did it spray anything?
No.
Nothing came out?
It made noises.
But nothing came out of it?
No.
All right, hold on. Maybe it needs to like build pressure or something. You ready?
Ready.
That's lit up.
Yes. Pretty cool.
Hell yeah. All right, so we're gonna tighten this up in a second, as long as this all works. That LED just lit up because we should have low, water meth. This might be a little backwards. Just start filling it up. It just passed it. The LED just went off, and it's just lit up. So it's kind of going to be the opposite. So I'm going to reverse that in the dash. So the voltage I have is just flipped. All right, meth LED is on. So secondary tables are on. IATs are 129 right now. I'm not going to fully get on. I'm just going to kind of like half throttle it, a little through second, a little into third. try to hold this steady here. Look at the IATs. That's disgusting. Disgustingly good. All right, so there it is. You can see there's a grommet there. Line goes across. There's the fitting. And then here she is all totally wrapped up, finaled up. I kind of just zip tied the check valve. So that's pretty much the end of it. It's probably a pretty long video, so I apologize for that. It's a little too long, too much detail, but hopefully it helps anybody. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments below. I'll try to answer the best I can. I tried to make this as detailed as I could so you can maybe just walk yourself through it or be able to figure it out throughout it. The main goal for why I did this was mainly, it's actually not for power. I say that we might be making more power with it later, but the main thing was the IATs, if you have a CRX, the intake temps, or in any EF I guess, or any Honda, but the EF, at least in my experience, the intake temps go through the roof, especially sitting still. The intercooler is big enough, and the old one was big enough that when I'm cruising, they'll go down, but overall when you're sitting at a stoplight, so Florida being, let's say we got a 95-degree day, I might just come out to my car and intake temps start at like 95 degrees. And we get to a traffic light after I've been driving for the last half hour. If I sit at a light long enough, they'll get up to about 140. I start cruising, they'll drop back down to about 118, 120 is about average on like a 95-degree day here. So with that, when I go to the autocross event, I'm trying to negate cutting another hood up and stuff like that. And I may have to, but I'm trying to just do as much as I can for the cooling of the car as far as coolant temperature and then just the combustion chamber. So by raising the octane and doing the boost use of 50-50 or a 49-51, the IATs, as you saw, they went dramatically low. So if I got like a 1-minute lap on there and I'm just kind of beating on it, it will hopefully stay low the entire time. I am still messing around with how I want this to be activated. I don't know. I mean, that run that you saw, I want to say the parameters was at like 4,000 RPMs and anything above 8 PSI. Probably gonna grab the RPM and just get rid of it and just put it on anything 8 PSI or up, just start activating. And maybe I can make another video. I don't know if anyone's gonna be curious of how to tune it. I called my tuner and he told me, for what I'm trying to do with it, he's like, you honestly just leave the timing alone and just clean up the fuel. Because as of now, it does bog. If I just rip on it in third and get above like 6 grand, it is so rich, the car just basically falls on its face. It's kind of the opposite of nitrous. Nitrous, you add fuel. Water meth, you actually remove fuel, which is where it kind of gets a little sketch. So he told me if I kind of just aim for like 11 to 11 and a half, timing on my car is conservative enough that if the pump was to fail and just die all of a sudden, and with me removing fuel, it, between the time it takes for the lean protection that we have set up to catch it and do everything else, we should still be okay. That if it even just splashed at, a 12 and a half AFR for just a split second, we should be okay. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I told him, and he, the joke, like being a crack addict, whatever, you're gonna want more power. May lead me to eventually, if I get that cleaned up, maybe one day I will go back to the dyno and use the water meth kit, maybe give it a little more boost instead of the 17.5 pounds. I mean, I'm curious what it'll do with, let's say, 22 pounds of boost out of this turbo and water meth. Probably a drag strip only kind of setup, because again, the last drag strip video, I was removing like 4 to 5 degrees worth of timing just due to IATs. With this kit now, it won't even, IATs are just kind of a thing of the past when I'm running it, which the drag strip is where I will probably run them again, amongst other things. But so that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it's not too detailed, and hopefully you just don't get lost. But I already put these on. I'm really bad at putting the videos out in a sequence that I should, but I'll give you a sneak peek what the next video is going to be. After that, hope you guys have a great week, whenever this video comes out, and stay safe.